There is a strange sensation that has followed you for years, perhaps since childhood, perhaps since that night you stared at the ceiling and something inside you whispered, "I am not here just for this." You achieve things, you hit your goals, you do what needs to be done. And yet when the house goes silent, when the phone stops ringing, when the last person leaves, something in you remains incomplete. It's not depression, it's not a lack of gratitude, it's something else, something older, something deeper. As if a part of your soul were waiting for you to remember a commitment you made before you were even born. And that is exactly what we need to talk about today. Because some souls, and perhaps yours is one of them, did not come here to live just any life. They came with a specific task, a mission, a signature, something that must be fulfilled before anything else the world tries to pile on top of you. And here is the question that could change everything from this moment forward. What if that feeling of being out of place that you carry isn't confusion, but a calling? Take a deep breath. Because what comes next isn't just another video, it's a remembrance. There is a truth that almost no one tells you, a truth that completely changes how you look at your own story. Your deepest wound, the one you still try to hide, the one you think broke you, carries the exact map of your purpose. What hurt you the most is what prepared you the most. Think with me. The child who was silenced, who grew up without a voice, with no space to speak and no one to listen, often becomes the adult capable of giving a voice to those who have never been heard. The person who was rejected, cast out or left on the sidelines frequently develops the rare sensitivity to create a sense of belonging for others. Those who have been deeply wounded, once they begin to heal, discover they hold a medicine in their hands that no book can teach. You weren't marked for punishment. You were marked for training. What you went through was not a mistake by the universe. It was the forge where your spiritual authority was built. The people who will need what only you can offer wouldn't be able to receive it from anyone else, because your pain gave you a language that others do not speak. The wound was not the end of your story. It was the beginning of your calling. We live in an era that confuses a mission with an audience, that confuses purpose with a stage, that measures value by likes, followers, and spotlights. But the most important missions on this planet happen in silence. It's the person who stays on the line with a friend at 3 in the morning when no one else picks up. It's the mother or the father who chooses to break a generational pattern without anyone applauding. It's that someone who walks into a room carrying a calm that recalibrates everyone around them. It's the silent shoulder, the unhurried hug, the look that says, "I see you," when the rest of the world is looking the other way. There is an invisible spirituality that sustains this planet, and it isn't found in the pulpits, it's in the details. Perhaps your mission doesn't come with a microphone, perhaps it comes with presence. And here is something you need to engrave upon your heart. Transforming a single life in depth can be more sacred than touching thousands on the surface. Do not underestimate what seems small in the eyes of the world. The world is terrible at measuring what actually matters. There is a lie repeated in every corner of Chicago, London, and New York that says, people don't live their purpose because they don't know what it is. That's a lie. Most people know. They've felt it for years. They dream about it. They return to the same thought every time they are alone. It's not a lack of clarity, it's fear. Fear of the price they will have to pay to say yes. Because accepting the mission means letting go of parts of your old life. It means losing people who only loved you as long as you fit into their mold. It means abandoning the approval you spent decades building. It means disappointing those who wanted you to stay small so they could feel big beside you. That is why so many people prefer to live halfway, because living halfway is emotionally cheaper than living whole. But a moment comes, and perhaps it is now, perhaps it's the reason this video reached you, where living halfway begins to hurt more than saying yes. When that point arrives, you no longer have a choice. Your soul has already chosen. Look back for a second. Really look. That rupture you didn't see coming. That divorce that shattered you. That shame you think no one noticed. The bankruptcy. The addiction. The illness. The forced restart when you swore you'd never start from scratch again. For years you looked at those things as tragedies, as detours, as wasted time. I am here to tell you something else. That wasn't a detour. It was preparation. It was the universe stripping away what no longer matched the soul you are becoming. It was life amputating what was preventing you from reaching where you need to go. The crisis wasn't a punishment. The crisis was the door. And there is a sentence I want you to read slowly. The detour was not a waste of time. It was the acquisition of authority. Every single thing you crossed through handed you a key. You just haven't realized yet that you are walking around with a heavy keychain, and the right door, when it appears, will open with one of those keys you swore was useless. If you are feeling a lump in your throat right now, I need to tell you something before the next chapter. You were born seeing what others don't see, feeling what others don't feel, perceiving layers of life that no one around you noticed. And you spent years, maybe decades, apologizing for it, shrinking yourself, trying to fit in, pretending you were just like them. Stay silent for 1 more year, stay silent for 6 more months, and you will definitively lose contact with who you were before the world convinced you to become someone else. The prosperity blueprint was built exactly for souls like yours. People who always knew there was something greater, but who were trained to doubt that internal voice. It is the end of the lie they taught you to live. It is the reunion with the version of you that has been waiting on the other side of fear. You were born seeing what others don't, and you spent your life apologizing for it. Stay quiet another year and lose who you were. The awakening protocol is the end of the lie they taught you to live. The link is pinned in the first comment and in the description. Those who need to understand already have. Now let's move from concept to concrete. There are 3 questions that, if you answer with brutal honesty, will give you the digital footprint of your mission. First question, what infuriates you deeply? Not just bothers you. What makes you furious? That thing you cannot watch happen without reacting. That specific type of injustice, lie, or human waste that makes something inside you stand up. Second question, what do you do naturally that others consider special? That thing that to you is obvious, mundane, something anyone would do. But when you do it, people react. They comment. They remember. That gift you undervalue because it came too easily. Third question, what theme keeps returning to your life? That subject that reappears in conversations, books, encounters, and random thoughts. That seems to chase you for years, that you've tried to ignore, yet it always comes back through another door. Cross-reference those 3 answers. There is your formula. Pain plus natural gift plus persistent attraction equals the footprint of your purpose. It's not magic. It's soul archaeology. You just need to stop ignoring what has always been screaming inside you. There are 2 types of anger in a human being, and confusing the 2 is costly. There is the anger that destroys, that reactive, wounded anger that wants to hurt back. That is not a compass. That is unprocessed pain, dressed up as fury. But there is another kind, the anger that points the way, sacred indignation, that which you cannot tolerate because your soul recognizes that something is wrong and needs to be corrected. It is the anger of the person who defends the truth when everyone else is lying. It is the fury of the one who protects creativity in a world that wants to standardize everything. It is the indignation in the face of injustice. It is the deep discomfort with the ugliness of the world when beauty is being destroyed. What you cannot ignore is usually exactly what you were sent to handle. Your sacred anger is not a spiritual problem, it is a spiritual instrument. It only becomes destructive when you don't use it for what it was made for. A pause for today's comment. There is a trap that steals the peace of almost everyone on a journey of purpose. The idea that winning is only about arriving. That's a lie. Growth is also a victory. Change is also a victory. Being able to react today differently than you did 3 years ago is a victory. Not falling back into that old pattern is a victory. Being able to stay silent where you used to explode is a victory. Look back, truly. Look at the things you crossed that seemed impossible. Look at the person you were 5 years ago. You are no longer that person. You have already become something else. You aren't waiting to win. You are in the middle of a victory. But because you are inside of it, you cannot see its scale. Those who are inside a miracle rarely realize they are inside a miracle. We need to return to this point because modern culture has created a dangerous confusion. It confused importance with visibility. But the most important souls in history rarely appeared in the newspapers of London or the gazettes of Boston. They were the fathers and mothers who chose to break a pattern of violence that had lasted for generations, the friends who supported another friend during their worst phase, and no one ever knew, the artists who touched very few lives, but touched them deeply, the people who chose not to pass on the wound they received. You might be one of those people, and perhaps that is exactly why you never felt comfortable in the game of exposure, because your mission doesn't ask for an audience, it asks for depth. Impact is not measured by viewership, it is measured by transformation, and real transformation, the kind that shifts an entire lineage, usually happens in silence, without spotlights, among a few people who will never be cited anywhere. And that does not diminish you, it locates you. There is a subtle poison that infects entire lives, borrowed purpose. It's when you spend years living the dream your parents had for you, or fulfilling the expectations of your spouse, or chasing what your culture said was success, or trying to prove to that person who doubted you long ago that you were capable. On the outside, it works. Perhaps you are even respected. Perhaps you have achieved things that on paper should make you happy. But on the inside, there is a void you cannot name. That is the sign. When you are respected but do not feel fully alive, something is wrong. It's not the job title. It's not the relationship. It's not the location. It's the fact that what you are living was designed for another soul, not yours. Letting go of a borrowed purpose is one of the hardest and most liberating things a human being can do, because you will look ungrateful. You will look lost. You will look like you are throwing away something many people wish they had. But living a life that is not yours is the slowest form of death there is. At some point, things that used to fit begin to feel tight. People who used to make sense begin to seem distant. Environments that felt like home begin to suffocate. Be careful not to interpret this as failure. It isn't failure, it's graduation. Every evolving soul reaches a point where the old life no longer fits, not because it became bad, but because you grew. And old clothes on a new body are tight, even if the clothes were good once. Some relationships were schools, not destinations. Some jobs were preparation, not the arrival. Some cities were just a pass-through, not a home. Some habits were medicine, not an identity. When you feel like you are outgrowing parts of your own life, that isn't arrogance or ingratitude. That is the soul announcing that a cycle has ended. Honor what was, and go. Those who view graduation as betrayal stay trapped in the first grade forever. Pay attention to this distinction because it is important. A simple life is not a limited life. There are people who live a simple life and have a giant soul. No stage, no audience, no pompous titles, but a depth that makes the world turn differently when they pass by. What some souls came to seek is not fame. It is truth, it is meaning, it is transformation, it is reparation, it is a deep love of the kind that reconfigures everything. And you know deep down, that fitting in was never enough, you even tried. You molded yourself, you silenced yourself, you even pretended. And always, always, something inside you refused to close the door to the house where the true soul lived. Stop apologizing for not being able to want just a little. Some souls came to want a lot, and that isn't a defect, it's design. Perhaps you need to reread your entire story starting today, because there are chapters you marked as shame when, in reality, they were redemption under construction. You weren't lost. You were being redirected. You weren't late. You were being prepared. You weren't starting from scratch. You were abandoning a life that was never yours to begin with. Shame over lost time is perhaps the greatest thief of purpose that exists, because you keep looking at the age you are and the point where you stand, and you calculate a deficit that only exists in your head. In the soul's accounting, nothing you lived through was a waste. Every detail is integrated into what you are capable of doing now. You aren't behind. You are exactly where you needed to be to start what needs to start now. And here is the part you might not realize. Your mission isn't waiting for the future to arrive. It is already happening now, in signs you aren't reading. Observe. What you naturally notice in people that no one else notices. What you defend without anyone asking you to. What moves you without explanation. What you continue to learn, as if an internal hunger pulls you toward that subject. What you teach without realizing it, in casual conversations, in advice that comes out of you before you even think. All of this is your signature appearing. Your purpose isn't in some future place, hidden behind a door you haven't found yet. It is already expressing itself through you, every day, in forms so natural you don't even register them. The only thing missing is for you to recognize it. The great truth is this, and I need you to receive it with an open heart. Your life has always been showing you your task. In every pain, in every gift, in every repetition, in everything that fascinated you for no apparent reason, in every person who appeared to hurt you and every person who appeared to heal you, you don't need a giant sign coming from the sky. The signs have always been there. Small, persistent, patient, waiting for you to have the eyes to see them. And perhaps in the end, this is the phrase that summarizes it all. Perhaps your mission was never to transform into someone different. Perhaps it was always to remember who you were before the world convinced you to be someone else. Read that again, slowly, because that sentence is the key. Don't rush the answer. Don't force the revelation. Don't demand immediate clarity from yourself about something that has been building your whole life. Allow the purpose to reveal itself at its own pace. Haste belongs to the ego. The soul has a different timing. But if something here touched you, if you felt recognition, not learning, but recognition, the kind that tightens your chest because it feels like you're being reminded of something you already knew, comment below. I am ready for my task. Not for me, for you. To mark the moment when you stopped pretending you didn't know. And share this video with that specific person who came to mind while you were listening. The one you know feels like there is something greater waiting for them. I end with this, and I want you to keep it. You are not lost, you are not late. You're only approaching the work for which your soul has prepared your entire life. Breathe, lift your head, and go. Those who needed to remember have remembered.